I feel like I took every safety precaution that I knew about. So if I knew that a child could die the way my daughter did, of course I would never have had them in my home. Grief changes you. Grief makes you more of a compassionate person because, before I was kind of one of those parents that, oh, that would never happen to me. I was probably a little arrogant and into thinking nothing could happen to me.
My husband and I have 5 children. Colton was our baby. Even on the day of the accident, I thought that my home was the safest, like a fortress, to protect my children. So I had absolutely no idea that something that could kill my son was hanging in my window.
You don't think about the window coverings. That's probably one of the furthest things from anybody's mind. I'd never heard of it happening before.
It is a day that I will never forget as long as I live.
She was 12 months old, and she was a twin. They were born May 25th, 2001, and they both weighed the same weight, which made history at the hospital. They had never seen 2 babies that had weighed the same. And she just was a good baby. She just was perfect. And Seth was kind of the crazy twin, and she was the laid back one. And she had a great laugh, and she was 12 months. So she was saying mommy and daddy, but that was about it. She was walking around the furniture, but she wasn't walking yet. So she was an amazing little baby with beautiful eyes and, perfect.
She was 19 months old, just shy of 19 months old when it happened. She was walking, but then she started running and would run down the hall and come and see me when I'm getting ready for work. And she'd get her blanket and come sit on my lap and cuddle with me in the mornings before I'd have to take her to the babysitter. And she was a lot of fun, just a bright child, happy.
My son's name was Colton Zachary Sharrow. He was born October the 19th of 2011. He was an amazing little guy. He could just light up a room with a smile. He was very adventurous. He loved to clap and throw rocks in the lake, and was obsessed with the Bubble Guppies. We had Bubble Puppy and the Bubble Guppies book. He slept with those every night. He loved to eat. Oh my goodness. And he called it nummy nummies. So for the rest of our lives, we will refer to our meal times as our nummy nummies in honor of Colton.
I dropped her off, and Rebecca, our oldest, at the babysitter's house, and I always would go and put her in the high chair. Gave her a kiss, I remember that, and told her I loved her and that I'd see her after work. And told Rebecca, gave her a hug and kiss, said I'll see you after work. And went to work. Normal day, just like you'd think, and then decided at lunchtime that I needed to go home. I had planned to go home and do some things. And I sat at the stoplight at the intersection that I could either turn right and go see my kid for my lunch, or I could turn left and go home and do what I needed to do. And the first thought was, I should go see the kids. But then, no, I'm gonna go home, I need to do this other stuff. So you always think if I woulda, coulda, shoulda, that's one of those moments. I was at home and I just finished doing the laundry, doing the dishes, and decided to go check my email while I was eating my pizza. I could tell you everything that was on that pizza that day, but I can't tell you what I had yesterday for lunch. And the phone rang, my cell phone rang, went and grabbed it, and every time I go to grab it, my heart always skips a beat when it's the babysitter, because I'm always thinking something's wrong with my kids. First thought that comes to my mind. And I answer the phone thinking she's just calling to chat today. And she was crying, and she couldn't get the words out of her mouth that she had told me that my daughter had a cord wrapped around her neck and she wasn't breathing. So I didn't quite hear her, what she had said, and made her repeat it. And I told her I was on my way. So I got back in my car and I drove to her house, trying to get hold of my husband because he worked out of town. And wasn't able to get a hold of him and got a hold of my mom. When I got there, the paramedics were there, but there was no ambulance, and there was some police officers still there, but they had already transported her to the hospital. So the officers wouldn't let me go in the home. They kept me outside and wouldn't tell me where she was. And I assumed that since the ambulance wasn't there that she was okay. And I could go in and take my kids home, and that'd be the end of my day. But then when they said that she was at the hospital, they took me in the squad car, drove as slow as you could possibly go. I mean, I thought they should have at least turned the lights on. You know, this is an emergency. Why are you not getting me there a lot faster? I'm sure they got her there a lot faster, but for me, it seemed like it took 3 times the amount of time that it normally would on a normal day. And when I got there and they took me in where they were working on her, my husband was 4 hours from home. And I had to wait for him to come. And in the process of waiting for him to come, my daughter, they had pronounced her dead. And I had to be there with my mom, and the family members came, and I held her. And then we had to leave her there. And that was probably the hardest day of my life.
My twins were in a room about 10 by 10 or 11 by 11. So I had 2 cribs in the room. I had one wall that had the door. I had one wall that had the closet. And then I had one wall that had the window. Now, a lot of people might say, well, you should have never had your child's crib by the window. Well, I didn't have a choice because I had twins. You know, 2 cribs are going to take up space in a bedroom, and we didn't live in a very big home. So my daughter's crib was not right underneath the window, but far away from the pull cord, about 4 feet away from the pull cord. So I never saw an issue there. And so I put him down for the night about 7:30, and I went off to just turn the house down and get the chores done and get the dishes done. And my husband had just come back from a walk with my daughter, and we just talked a little bit. And we always, before we would go to bed, we would check on the twins because, you know, it's so cute to see babies sleeping and everything. And I never heard anything after I put them down. I heard them laughing and playing a little bit. And I walked in the room first, and my husband was behind me, and my 5-year-old daughter was behind him. And as soon as I walked in the room, I found her in the corner of her crib in a very unnatural position. It was dark, so it was hard for me to see what was wrong, but I knew immediately when I walked in that there was something wrong. And I ran, and I found the cord around her neck, and I immediately, you know, called 911 and performed CPR. And I knew when I found her that it was too late. She was not cold, but she was cool to the touch, so I knew that the chances of her coming back was very slim. When the EMTs got there, the police got there, and the police could not understand how she gained access to the cord. I didn't understand how she gained access to the cord because I had the pull cords tied up. So how in the world did my daughter get a cord around her neck? I didn't understand it. And I was interrogated heavily at my house. I wasn't allowed to go with my daughter by the police because they didn't understand it. And they finally let me go. I went to the hospital. They pronounced her dead and at the hospital. And they pulled me in a room. They pulled my husband in a separate room, and they interrogated us again. They just, I guess, didn't understand how she got caught up in the cords. And that is so devastating. It's bad enough to lose your child under your care, but to be accused of killing your child is just absolutely heart-wrenching and brutal. So they allowed me to go back home. I had to reenact the entire thing. And when they saw the inner cord that was hanging out in the loop, I think they finally understood how the accident occurred. And I just came home and I was left with one less child and an empty crib, and yeah, it was bad.
It was a beautiful October day. We had a very ordinary day. The same kind of day we'd had for the last, 2 years with him. I have a 3-year-old named Stan the Man, and his little brother Colton, and the two of them had been in our playroom. They were watching television and playing trains. Stan was on the computer, and I checked my watch and realized it was time for us to start getting ready for snack and nap. So I left the boys and went into the kitchen and was making strawberry milk and popcorn. Called for Stan to come on up and go and lay him down in bed. And then I went to get Colton and realized that I initially thought he was asleep. I walked over and thought, well, stinker, you've fallen asleep on me. And got over to the window and realized that he had that cord around his neck. I also performed CPR and called 911, and unfortunately he too was pronounced dead at the hospital. The medical examiner who saw Colton told me he died in seconds, that if I had been sitting right beside him, the outcome would have been the same.
When you lose a child in a tragic way, and maybe not even a tragic way, you do deal with post-traumatic stress disorder, and that is difficult to deal with. The visual image of a child that you love so much laying dead in your arms is just haunting.
It's a day-by-day thing. Every day could be, one day you're fine, the next day you're crying. And even though it's been 7 years, it still seems like it was almost yesterday.
Watching my husband realize his son had died, that was really hard for me. Colton was the beginning of there being 2 Shero men. So, and he always looked at him as his bonus baby. So my husband's heartbreak has been very, very difficult for me.
Grief changes you, and loss changes you.
It never does ever go back to the way that you were.
I miss his footsteps running through my hall. I can't clean my television screen because he liked to pull the table up and put his little fingers on the screen, so I have these little fingerprints that I don't ever want to go away. So everything about this loss has been extremely difficult for me.
Just not having her here, wondering what her personality would be like now. Abby would be turning 9 this February. That's probably the worst, is not knowing what she would have been like.
We've really leaned on God, and our church family has embraced us, and we've done most of our coping in that direction.
I believe that my faith and my husband's faith saved our family and saved our marriage, and it brought the family together. It made us stronger.
You don't take your kids for granted anymore because you never know if they're going to be there the next day. It makes you look at them a whole different way than what you used to. My oldest daughter, now she's going to be 11, and where did the time go? It seems that just the other day she was Abby's age, and now I don't get to have that with her. But I've been able to since have 2 other children now, where I've been able to stay home with them and be with them and be able to have those moments that I'm missing out on from not having Abby here.
My husband and I are taking date nights once a week to remove ourselves and to step away from the grief for a little while and remember that we can still have fun, that it's good for us to have joy. We do family outings that are specific for each one of the children. So we're really investing all of our time and energies into, strengthening that bond. And we do take moments to grieve together, but we also try to encourage ourselves to have a good time.
I think as a family, it has brought our family a lot closer together.
My family is stronger and more connected than we've ever been. We don't take moments for granted, and I do have faith that we will be able to make something very positive out of this extremely terrible tragedy.
If you can find the strength to get through it, and you can find a way to help others who are grieving, that is where healing starts.
It's just layers upon layers of difficulty within this, and to see that it's still happening, to go in and see that other parents are going through what I just went through 4 months ago.
I can't tell you how many times I talked to people about Abby and her situation and what happened, that they never thought of that before. And especially being at a daycare provider's home where they are licensed by the state.
It breaks my heart that I did not know how preventable this issue was. So I wanted to start the research process and try to find, what was out there. And to my amazement, I found Parents for Window Blind Safety.
I did not realize when my daughter died how often it happened. And when I did find out how often it happened, I knew something needed to be done. My husband and I founded Parents for Window Blind Safety about 5 months after our daughter died. I saw a need. Children were dying. The strangulations actually are happening every 2 weeks, but the deaths occur once a month. With the near strangulations, the children that do make it, sometimes they're okay and sometimes they're not okay. Sometimes they're severely brain damaged. I have records of accidents that have happened since 1986, and right now we have 554 injuries and deaths since 1986.
I had no clue, and I don't want another mother or another father or another brother or sister or grandparent to find this happen. And, they need to know that it can, and it does, and it happens to regular people. You go, I don't want to get out of bed today, but then you see that you're put in a place where you have the power to say something that could save a life. I mean, what a blessing, what a gift to have the opportunity to be able to save a life, especially the life of a sweet and innocent little child.
And so we're trying to just get the message across the world, because kids are dying all over the world. It's not just in the United States. I think the most fulfilling thing about what I do is the fact that I can let a parent know who's lost a child that they're not alone. I can give them an inspiration that if I can get through 11 years, they can get through the next year.
I would definitely advise them to go to the website and reach out to Parents for Window Blind Safety. There are people that would love to love them, that would embrace them and be a support and encouragement to them on a regular basis. They, within our group, we honor the children that have lost. We speak their names freely. We tell stories about them. We love each other's children. We love each other. They're like a beacon of hope for me. They give me power and strength on days where I don't know where it's going to come from. Between God blessing me with the opportunity to meet them and their encouragement and support through the process, I'm greatly blessed in this tragedy to have them.
This has happened to doctors and lawyers and billionaires, and it's not about your parenting skills. This is a product issue. It's not a supervisory issue.
The particular set of blinds that Abby had entangled herself in were ones that go out to a patio or a deck, so you've got your French doors, so they went from the top of the door to the floor, and the cord went from the top of the head of the blinds and coiled down on the floor. The babysitter hadn't picked it up and I guess put it back up to where it was supposed to be, and that's when Abby had gotten into them and was entangled.
Right now, the horizontal blinds do have the tilt cord and the pull cord on them.
The inner cords that run down the middle in several locations, depending on how wide your window is, that help to lift the window up. It can be pulled from the inside. The inner cord is what they call it, that can be pulled out.
Horizontal blinds have a 50% more strangulation risk than they did 20 years ago because the tilt wand has been removed and replaced with another set of dangling cords. Children have died on those cords. And for all of these reasons, Parents for Window Blind Safety recommends only cordless or cord-free products in homes where children live or where children visit.
And there are products available that can cure this.
Nothing with cords. In my home now, I have cellular shades that the cords are completely covered, don't even see them, or I have drapes. Now I can see that I would be asking if they had the proper type of window coverings in their home without having the cords, no blinds. And if they did, I would be looking elsewhere for childcare for my child.
There is also a product on the market that you can use to retrofit old products, especially window blinds. It's a cord covering device that can be attached to the product and cover the cord so that the strangulation risk is eliminated. So the technology is there.
It's been the number one thing that people have said to me since this incident has occurred. Because of your story, we've tied the cords up. But that is not the full message that we're trying to express. That's not the full story. The cords will kill your children, so they must be retrofitted or they have to go cordless in order to protect their children. The blind that killed my son is still available on the market today.
Children have been killed and injured on products that have safety devices attached. They've been killed on products that comply with the current standards. It's kind of hard to walk through an aisle and see a sticker on a box that says child safe, and then open the box and there be a warning on it that says keep out of reach of children. You're like, what? I thought it said child safe. So what we do is we have a logo that we put on the box, and that shows the consumer that this product has been tested for strangulation and we've approved it, and it's strangulation free. There's no hazard of strangulation on that product. I feel we're close to changing the industry and to eliminating the hazards, but I'm up against a billion-dollar corporation, and I'm just a little guy. You know, I'm just a mom from the Midwest who's trying to implement a cure to a preventable death and a preventable accident.
No, shortening the cords isn't going to do it. Hanging the cords up isn't going to do it. Just not having them in your home would do it. Don't wait, because it could be tomorrow and you wouldn't have your child here.
Start in one room and take that window covering down. Start in the bedrooms of your kids and replace it with something safer, or get a retrofit that's safe, something that's been approved by our nonprofit. Of course, liking our page and sharing our pages and sharing the stories and with family and loved ones, and of course sharing this video with your friends and loved one will help create a lot of awareness. I believe that our cause has a cure, and I believe that these accidents are preventable, and I believe that the cure to the cause is twofold. One is the message needs to be universal, meaning the government and our agency and the industry all need to tell the consumers to live safe and to go cordless. And the second is that the government needs to intervene, and they need to make a mandatory rule so that products can be created with cords that are inaccessible to children, whether it be by a rigid cord covering device or by going with a cordless lift system. Without those two things happening, I believe more children are just going to continue to die.
And our lives will they forever changed, in an instant, in seconds. Things changed for us forever. We need to talk about this. We need to share this. We need to get people to embrace our stories and share them freely and tell each other.
Cords kill kids.
Cords kill kids.
Cords kill